Hey everybody! These days, a lot of people are steering away from the traditional Thanksgiving turkey. And if you want to have a roast chicken or bake a salmon for your holiday meal, have at it. But you know who's not having it? This guy. I savor tradition and I savor turkey as well. And when it comes to Thanksgiving, I want to see a big, fat, golden, shimmering stuffed turkey smack dab in the middle of my holiday spread. That being said, this year it's not my holiday spread. I'm taking the turkey on the road to the in-laws, so I'm not gonna offend myself with a little twist on tradition. I'm still making a whole stuffed turkey, but this time, it's boneless. I'm making this boneless, whole stuffed turkey roll that everyone's gonna love. So let's get started. I need to get started by deboning a whole turkey. Now, this is something I've done with chickens a bunch of times, but it's been a minute and I've never done it with a turkey, but theoretically it should be the same process. And the idea is to get all the bones out of this while leaving the meat and all the skin intact. Now, this is a pretty small turkey. It's just a little 10-pounder, but I figure that'll be good for my practice try. A lot of feathers left in this guy, not a very good job by the old plucker there. So I'm not gonna need the ends of the wings, so I'll just take those right off. There we go. I'm gonna roll that guy over. Press down. So now all you need is a good sharp boner. I'm gonna cut through the skin right down the spine of this guy. You're just gonna keep your knife pressed up against the bone and follow it down. And wherever you run into a hard bit, just kind of angle around it. Once you get it started, it'll start to go pretty smooth. That little back muscle, that little oyster there. And pretty soon you're gonna start to see the ribs in here. And you just keep following down, keeping that knife right up against them. Go ahead and pop that leg joint. Flatten it out a bit. And that one. There we go. I used to be pretty quick at this, but I haven't done it in quite a while. I gotta get through this wing joint here and break it loose. Find that thing. That thing should pop right away. Now, I'm gonna go ahead, cut through the skin down right along the wing bone. And open that up and you'll see that bone right in there, and just go right around the edges of it. You can run your knife up and under it. And then cut that loose from the end of the bone. Now coming under it, follow the bone up to the top again. There we go, it's coming loose, and just work it all around that joint. Get that bone right out of there. Just like so. And we're gonna get to the leg joint. Pop that thing loose. I already broke it, so it's not gonna be difficult to get in there. Now, you're gonna need to slice it through here like you did the wing, just right along the bone. Follow that bone right down there. Coming up on that knee joint right there. Once you get to the joint, cut it down along the drumstick, right along the bone. Starting right there, connect those two cuts right down to the bottom of the drumstick. All right. Now we're gonna keep cutting the meat away from those leg bones. It's not got to be pretty. All this stuff is gonna be on the inside. Just about got that leg bone out of there. Alright, now all that's left to do on this side is to continue down the body. Now when you start to get down around the bottom, you're gonna have to be very careful not to cut through the skin right between the breasts, because there's no meat there. It's very thin. So I like to stop before that and go ahead and work on the other side. You're gonna find there's real thin spots right here between the leg meat and the breast meat. And then the other thin spot is gonna be right over the keel, right over the top of that breast. So just keep working this down along the bones. Get very close right there. I can cut these legs actually loose from the body here. Get a little space. You can see what you're doing a little better. Now, when I get it really close, see if I can flip this over right here. And I'm just gonna try to run my knife right along that bone and not cut through this skin. It's the trickiest part of the whole thing. But if you do poke a hole in there, you'll probably be able to fix it. So pull the body up like so. Keep working down till we get all the way to the point here. The tip of that cartilage. Then you can pop it loose right there and then start working the knife forward. Go ahead and take some of that cartilage with you. That way you know you're really close. We can trim that out of there later. Don't be afraid to get in there and feel where that bone is, because you get very, very close now to breaking it loose. So, if you want to practice this on some cheap chickens, it's a good idea. There we go, here it comes. Bam. Take this guy, I'm gonna roast this up real good and make some nice rich stock with that for the gravy. Let's flip this guy over and see how we did gently. So you don't tear the skin. Look at there. Flip those legs out like so. That is a full-on meat sheet. Not too bad. But now I am gonna have to take some time and pull out these tendons, these real heavy tendons in here. Probably do this with some needle nose. This is a very sharp and thin knife. You get the idea. This is gonna take me a minute, so I'll get back to you when I'm done pulling these guys out. Almost every TV chef and website out there will tell you that it's dang near impossible to roast a whole turkey without overcooking it and drying out the white meat. That's because the white meat is done at around 150 degrees Fahrenheit, and the dark meat needs to cook to about 165. And that's not a food safety issue, it's because the dark meat has to get to the higher temperature to dissolve the collagen in the connective tissue, and if it doesn't get to that temperature, the dark meat just has a really unappealing texture, and it seems kind of raw. At 150, it's not going to make you sick. That temperature will kill salmonella, but you probably won't want to eat it. Now, you can cut the bird up and cook the breasts and legs separately, or you can spatchcock it, and that'll get you around the problem. It works really well any other day of the year. But on Thanksgiving, those Frankenbirds are an abomination to me. Now, I want that Norman Rockwell, the grand centerpiece, to feast for the eyes. Now, this is even more likely to dry out a bit because I'm going to pound these breasts down a little to make this all kind of even, and that's going to thin those things out, and it's going to be a really dense package. It's going to take a while to get that internal temperature up. So I'm going to do my best to mitigate that by brining, and I'll also try and keep the dark meat to the outside of the roll as much as possible. And if all else fails, I'll just drown it in gravy. And this is why we do a test run. For this brine, I'm not gonna go real technical like I do when I'm curing meat. We're gonna keep this one home style. And I like to make these brines just a little bit saltier than I want the bird to be when I'm done. So think of your brine kind of like a soup and add in salt until it tastes like something you'd want to eat. And then add maybe 10 or 15% more on top of that. And that's going to help account for the meat that we're going to put in there. There's some clumpy salt, I'll tell you what. Now I'm going to add in just a bit of sugar. Don't want to add in too much or the skin will get really, really dark. So just a little bit, because some sweetness is really nice in turkey. So, what do I got here? 3 quarts of water, 2 tablespoons of sugar, and 5 tablespoons of salt. But that salt's a little clumpy, so if your salt's a little drier than mine, 4 is probably going to get you there. That's nice. As long as you taste that and don't go, ah, that's salty, then I think you're going to be just fine. Now let's just slide our old turkey down in there. Ugh. And I'll pop this into the refrigerator overnight.
The next morning.
The turkey is brined overnight, so let's put together some stuffing. And originally I was thinking about stuffing this with just sausage alone, but I thought that might create a bit of a brick. So instead I'm going to be making a sausage and cornbread stuffing. But you use whatever your favorite stuffing recipe is. It ain't none of my business what you stuff up in your bird. I'm a fan of putting oysters in my stuffing, but today I'm gonna keep it pretty basic with this stuffing. I've got one 12-ounce package of those dried cornbread chunks. You make your own if you're that ambitious. Here's some fresh herbs out of the garden. I got a little thyme and some rosemary. Here's some sage. 1 cup of diced celery and 1 cup of diced onion. And here is a cup of that stock that I made last night. You can tell you got a nice rich stock when it turns into jello on you. This is a pound of spicy sausage. You could use some nice andouille here, just some plain breakfast sausage, whatever you like. I got 3/4 of a cup of butter and 2 eggs for binder. All right, in with the celery, in with the onions. I'll saute those for about 5 minutes until they start to soften up a little bit. Now, right before these are ready, I'm gonna go in with my herbs. I've got around a tablespoon of each. That thyme, and the sage, and the rosemary. I just want to heat those up a little bit just to kind of get the flavors to start popping out of there. So just about 30 seconds or so. Now we'll bring that over, get it right into that cornbread, toss that around a little bit. When that sausage is all the way cooked through, get it right down in there with everything else. I'm going to toss this for a bit to get it cooled off just a bit, because I don't want those eggs to cook when I put them in here. I'm going to beat up these 2 eggs and stir these in. Now we'll bring in that stock. And I'm going to go real easy on this stock because this is going to soak up a lot of juice from that turkey. Just adding in a little bit of that flavor, tiny bit of moisture to coat everything. We got the eggs in there to help hold it together. Yeah, I think that's going to be all right with just about a half cup of that stock. All right, let me get this thing out here. I'm gonna get some of that extra brine off of there. That is a big old piece of meat, so I'm gonna smack down the very thickest part of the breast just a little bit to kind of even this out a little bit. There's not a tremendous difference, so I don't have to do it too much. I'm gonna hit this with a little bit of black pepper. And how about just a touch of cayenne? Now, I have been thinking a lot about how I want to roll this up, and it would be prettier if I started down here with the dark meat and rolled it inside. But that is going to make that dark meat take even longer to cook. So it's going to cook better if I get the dark meat to the outside and start rolling from the breast downward. I'll trim that off. If I cook that down in the middle, it's going to get pretty rubbery. Okay, here we go. And I've got a lot more stuffing than I need here, but whatever's left over, I'll just put in a casserole and pop that in the oven too. I don't want to go too thick on this or this is going to be massive. Let's get a little more. I want to be all the way out to the edges. Here we go. Let's see how this goes. And this is going to be very, very messy for sure. I'll roll that up. Keep her going. Come on down here. Oh man. Now here's going to be the trickiest part. See how those legs look on the outside there. Keep those ends tucked. Ah, see there's a big gap between the legs. We'll tie that together. Yeah. Bring that guy down here where I can work with it a little bit. Whoop, there we go. We got some extra stuffing here. I'll pop that right in the holes here. Check those ends. Pop some stuffing down into the ends. Had I rolled it with the white meat, the breast out here on the outside, I wouldn't have this gap. Alright, so there it is. Real ugly. So let's start tying this together. I'm going to kind of tuck the ends in there a little bit. I can also do that afterwards. String under there first. Tie that up not too tight. It's probably gonna want to expand a little bit from the stuffing. Let's get this part here, this gap. I'll try to tie that closed just as best as I can. Probably going to go every 1.5 inches or so on this. The string, making sure I get one across anywhere where there's a gap, or a couple across there. Not super pretty on this side, but I'll get a little salt on here and then we'll roll it over and see how it looks on the other side. Okay, very carefully. Roll that. Okay, now I can see some spots here where I need to tie this up a little more. Yes, the other side is going to be my top side, but I'm going to tuck this up. I think I'll do it with one lengthwise string just to hold it together a little bit more. All right. Pull that flap up, that string on there. See what we got down here, looks pretty good on that end. Just loosely cinch that up, hold it there a little better. I think that's about as good as I'm going to do this time. Now let's season that side up a little bit. Alright, let's try get this up here on my rack. Oh, careful. Roll it over easy. Alright, you know what? It's not looking too bad. It's pretty even all the way down, so it should cook evenly. And hopefully that dark meat being on the outside will keep the white meat from drying out. Let's hope for the best. Woo! Get a look at that. Everything stayed inside. It looks and it smells great. Now let me tell you how I ended up cooking this. I did start this at 425 just to give that skin a bit of a kickstart. And then I dropped the temperature down to 325. I had a temperature probe in the middle and I left it uncovered the whole time. Now, as it was going, I was monitoring it here and there with my little handheld. And since that dark meat is on the outside, it was cooking much faster than the white meat on the inside. I pulled it at 152 because that white meat should still be pretty juicy at a lower temperature like that. And the whole thing ended up taking just over 2 hours. But now I'm going to let this thing rest for 20 or 30 minutes because it is a big piece of meat. And I'll go make that gravy and then we'll see how we did. Yeah, that looks awesome, and I can tell you right now without trying it that white meat is plenty juicy. Ooh, it's just shiny with that juice. Nice and plump. Not a ton of stuffing in there, but I got plenty of stuffing to serve on the side. That looks really cool. Well, let's get this thing plated up and see how we did. How is that for cool? And that centerpiece actually does have a lot of stuffing in it. And I can definitely see a lot of juice in the white meat. That is gonna be great. I got my roll, I got some of this extra stuffing, and I would love to try this right now, but I gotta have that gravy. Now that's more like it. And now, after all of that effort, let's see how we did. I think I'll actually cut the thinnest piece because it's likely to be the driest. Ooh, yeah. Some of that turkey, some of that stuffing out the middle. Check out that bite. Oh, yeah! Woo! Well, now I made a mess. That is the white meat. There was nothing wrong with that at all. Let's try that again. Holy moly. That is outrageous. It's so much fun. Let's try the dark meat over here. It's perfect. Oh man, that worked out well. I think to make this thing better is a little spicy cranberry sauce, and you can find a recipe for that on the channel. It's really good. Got some cranberry sauce heated up with a little habanero, but boy, that is good. And it's an awesome presentation. Look at that. I mean, nobody is gonna complain about that. There is a little bit of room for improvement here. The bottom skin is not all crispy. The top is great and the sides perfect, but it's just like when you roast a whole bird. That bottom skin didn't crisp up, so, you know, if you're very careful, you can probably roll that thing over, you know, toward the end of cooking, crank that heat one more time, and get crispy skin all the way around. Now, another way that I could improve on this a little bit is that the skin that is rolled into the inside is not nice and crispy. It's soft, but it's kind of like a little bit of fat in there. And there's not a ton of it, so it's not a problem for me. But some people won't be able to get over that, and they'll just kick that off to the side of their plate. But a possible way around that, now stay with me here. If I had my stuffed meat sheet laying out here, and I detached the breast skin about halfway down, then just rolled the meat after I got it all into a roll, I should have a big flap of loose skin off the back, and I could wrap that right around the outside, and then I should have 100% crispy skin on that thing. Well, I think that's what I'm gonna try the next time I do this. So there are just a couple of areas to make this better, but overall, this was a tremendous success. Well, I always like to say, if you're gonna bring a new dish to any kind of gathering or event, you should always do a practice run first. And this was my practice run, and now I am fully confident that in a couple of weeks, when the big day arrives, I'll be ready and make one even better. But if you show up with that thing, heads are gonna turn, eyes are gonna pop, and you are gonna become the most sought after Thanksgiving guest in your whole circle of friends. So I hope you all have a happy Thanksgiving, and I also hope you give this one a try, and I know you're gonna love it. Thanks for watching.